Hi, my name's Taylor Hearn.
My name's Josh Arnett.
I'm Harvey Day.
I'm Patsquatch. All right. Well, let's do it.
Okay.
This is Hoot and Holler, podcast about the Ozarks.
My name's Taylor. I was born right outside of Harrison, Arkansas, with a great reputation, the town. I was raised right outside of there, and we didn't grow up particularly religious. My dad got into religion later in life. My parents were Fox News Republicans before that was a cool thing to be. I worked in transportation logistics, and I am moving further to the left by the day, meaning I am a recovering liberal.
Let's see. I was born in Illinois, but I didn't live there very long. And then I moved to northern Wisconsin, and then moved to Springfield, Missouri, and then moved to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and then moved back to Springfield, Missouri, so I could go to Christian Bible college. My dad is an evangelical minister, which is why we moved around so much, because God kept telling him to go different places. And you follow the call of God, even when it destroys your children's lives. Let's see. Now I own a bookstore. Please don't throw a brick through the window. And I don't politically. I don't know. I don't have any just left generally. I don't have any title. You know what I mean? Like I'm not like.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm Harvey, and I was born in Louisiana, just sixth generation swamp trash, but because of generational Southern poverty, I ended up being adopted by a nice Mormon family who moved me to the Ozarks when I was 10. And so I've lived all over the country after graduating high school and not being a Mormon anymore. And now I've been back in the Ozarks for, about 3 years now. I was training to become a mortician pre-pandemic, but the pandemic really fucked my shit up. That's a story for another day. So now I'm homeschooling my kids, and I have an OnlyFans. So capitalism at work, baby. Oh, and politics. I'm I'm pretty ANCOM. I'm extremely far left. I'm one of those radicals they warn you about.
All right. My name is Patsquatch. I was born on the Great Plains in the shadow of the Rocky Mountains. Moved around a little bit as a kid. My folks were both teachers, professors, and then teachers. Moved back down to just teaching like elementary school. Moved to the Ozarks when I was about 11, way out in the sticks, actually about a mile from where I live now, which is a little town called Fuckall in Taney County. And my folks were liberals, like capital L, boomer liberals. I work as a welder by trade and an artist by profession. Get to make all kinds of cool stuff. And I am an anarcho-communist, I guess a libertarian Marxist is probably about on the nose, though I don't know. Daily I think about becoming a Maoist, the way things are going in this country. So.
I did one of those political compass quizzes once, and it told me I was a council communist, but I'm not entirely sure what that means.
Long live the Soviet. So, we wanted to start this podcast in part because we feel that there's a kind of a dearth in rural and middle America leftist voices, and in part because the Ozarks region has been getting a lot of cultural cachet lately and has been in the news quite a bit, and it's a long misunderstood and overlooked region. I describe it as Appalachia Minor. It is very much culturally descended from Appalachia, and the original white settlers here were all the people who thought Appalachia was getting too crowded, and so they moved out to even less crowded hills.
Yeah,
It's a
we're
weird
Appalachia's
place.
fucked up little sister.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so maybe you've seen the Netflix show The Ozarks or Ozark or whatever the hell it's called, and maybe hopefully we can give you a little bit better idea of what this place is about than fucking Jason Bateman is. So
We do always have that same kind of blue sheen, though, in everything we do.
yeah, that's all
That
that.
is true. That's true.
That's all that longleaf pine from where they film it down in Georgia. That's at least where I'm coming from. If any of y'all want to add to that.
No, I definitely think you worded it really great. I definitely sometimes in like the leftist circles um, that I follow, so especially on Twitter, you see a lot of like the Ozarks. Like it's never talked about because the people just assume it's just Trump country out here. So I am excited to kind of shed some light on that as well.
Yep.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll find out that we have comrades, but hopefully we'll find even new ones if anybody ever hears this. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
One thing that's dispiriting about living in any kind of like area that's considered conservative is when it's usually liberals online wish death upon us for for not living in New York or in a blue state.
Yeah, I love to see someone who has never been to Arkansas or Missouri be like, man, we should just give that to the Trump country. I'm like, what? No.
Like
Yeah.
just
No.
celebrating when COVID spikes here, like just
Oh, who
Yeah,
was it that host the Daily? I can't remember his name right now. But he was like, he posted that terrible take on Twitter of like basically why the South is to blame for COVID, and people just like fucking ripped him a new one. And my favorite comment out of all of that was like, man, I'm not going to take any opinions on the South from anybody who has never eaten at a Shoney's buffet. And I think
So I think we're gonna mostly focus on local stuff, but it's impossible to avoid what the hell's going on in this country just generally. So let's get it out of our system here, and let's talk about the election and COVID and the impending climate doom that we're headed towards. If anybody has any hot takes that would get us canceled on episode 1, I guess this would be the time to bring it up.
Well,
But
are
yeah,
all
the
y'all riding with Biden?
oh,
do I have to answer that?
I'm good. I'll just say I'm not. I'm not doing it.
yeah, no, I totally respect that. I will admit I did vote for Biden. Early voted last week, and I think like a lot of people, immediately after I did it, I regretted it, especially in Arkansas. Like it did not matter at all. Yeah, like we know Trump is getting the 6 electoral college votes. Like we know it's going to happen. I feel like a big besides like his policies and who Joe Biden is as a person. I obviously had an issue with the very credible allegations of sexual assault that were against him, and I voted for him. And I got out to the car and I cried because I'm a crybaby and I cry over everything. And I just really felt like I betrayed everything that was in me for what's ultimately like not going to matter. So I am reluctantly riding with Biden, I suppose. I'm trapped in the van.
And I'm not. I respect anybody who's gonna cast their vote for Biden, but I voted for Hillary in 2016 and had the same. Got to the car and was like, oh my fucking god, what did I just do?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
Not this time.
I voted for Jill Stein in 2016, so you're welcome, Putin. I'm gonna do exactly what I
It's
did
all
in
your
2000.
fault.
It is literally my fault. I'm gonna do what I did in 2016. Is I'm gonna look at the late polling, and I'm gonna look at the 538 models, and I'm going to check the exit polls. And I mean, if it's within 5 points in Missouri, I probably will vote for Joe Biden, but I don't think it's going to be within 5 points in Missouri. Whenever I check the exit polls and all that shit on Election Day 2016, it was like it was only like +5 Trump. I think it was like right at the threshold. And
Yeah.
it ended up being +19
Yeah, it
on the
was
final
crazy
count.
here.
I don't feel bad about that shit in retrospect at all. Apparently, I wasn't the only one, even though Jill Stein only got, I don't know, 0.5% of the vote here. But yeah, I don't know. Ultimately, I think we can all agree that like that few minutes in the voting booth is the least of the amount of work that we have to do going forward.
So up here in Arkansas, Tom Cotton is actually up for re-election. Everybody's favorite political figure, and
I'm gonna give him a run for that. I think.
yeah. And there had been a Democrat that had been running, and he dropped out the day after the filing deadline here in Arkansas, so the Democrats couldn't run anybody. And so I voted for a libertarian named Ricky Dale Harrington, and I was like, this feels right. This feels like this is what I should be doing right now. And so I think he's polling at I think Tom Cotton's up by 60 points.
I gotta say, if any libertarian were gonna get my vote, it would be a Ricky Dale Harrington. That's just got, yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna be watching the Ricky Dale race.
Yeah,
There was a guy that always ran in Springfield. I think it was for Congress, and he was a libertarian, and his nickname was Magic. It was something Magic something, and his one thing obviously was legalizing weed. And he had a ponytail. I think I voted for him a couple times. He seemed kind of cool.
We had that Missouri gubernatorial candidate who's kind of perennial. I don't think he's on the ballot this year, but Chief Wannadoobie. Very, very problematic white guy who, yeah, he's like a Tommy Chong figure, basically. His one single plank platform is marijuana legalization. But I think since we got medical, he's no longer feels the need to get his name on the ballot. But yeah, Chief Wannadoobie.
Run on anymore.
Well, no, they could just go for harder drugs. This is the Overton window. Libertarians. Now let's go for coke. Let's just keep
It's surprising to me. Arkansas has medical marijuana, and it's actually going very well. But my company won't allow us to do it because we're a national company.
Right.
Oh yeah.
We are we have medical, and it's finally just rolling out. We passed it in 2018, and just today or yesterday, the minority leader of the House, the State House, Crystal Quaid, she announced they're opening an investigation into the graft that's going on along that. Republicans were against medical marijuana legalization forever, and they pushed hard against it when it was on the ballot. But as soon as it got passed, they started doing sweetheart deals with all their buddies, and denying people who probably deserved licenses, their cultivation license, and then gave a bunch of their friends with big ranches cultivation licenses and stuff. So we're going to see where that goes. It's kind of interesting that they announced the investigation 9 days before the election or whatever. So
that sounds exactly what happened when Harrison, Boone County went wet and started selling alcohol. Everyone, which was in the year of our Lord 2012, we used to have to drive to the state line Wild Bill's, right outside
yeah,
of
Wild
Hollister.
Bills, man. Hell yeah, I've been to Wild Bills a bunch.
to get booze. And
on the way to the lake.
Happened. Exactly. But yeah, we'd have to when Boone County went wet, all of the liquor licenses, everyone was against it, and then the liquor licenses all went to the mayor, Jeff Crockett's friends. It was a big deal.
Where's the Walmart headquarters?
The Walmart headquarters are 20 minutes down the road from where I live now, Josh. So
are they still dry?
They're in Boonville. No, Boonville's that whole area. I've had a beer in Boonville.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're down like northwest Arkansas, so it's like Bentonville, Rogers, Fayetteville, which is where I live, in Springdale.
So this
And
is a good time to interject. Harvey and I have a strong belief that where you live, Taylor, is going to be a top 10 metro in the next 20 years.
it definitely is. And I agree, and I think just about anybody else here who agrees or who lives here agrees. Walmart is expanding. So I work for one of the larger companies. It's not Walmart Advertising. Anyone that lives here can figure it out.
Yeah, I immediately know who you're talking about, but go ahead.
They're all expanding, and they're used to, they would hire out for field locations. A lot of those jobs are coming back to Northwest Arkansas, which, I mean, like, in a way, it feels, I don't know, I'm always kind of conflicted about it because this is a relatively, like, affordable place to live. But, like, even I've been in Fayetteville for 3 years now, and I've noticed, like, one, just gentrification of places where people who don't work at Walmart or are executives at these companies live. They're trying to like rebrand South Fayetteville, which is a very like working class, like kind of artist neighborhood. They're trying to rebrand it as SoFay, which I hate so much.
God. Oh my God.
Yeah, they're trying to rebrand it as SoFay, and like like those annoying like almost like Art Deco townhouses. They're building like neighborhoods of those, and just like pushing people out, and once you get out, yeah, and once you get outside of Fayetteville, you get into like smaller communities like Greenland and like Lincoln and stuff like that, and just your access to like just even like basic services are like greatly diminished. So that's like a big conversation that's going on right now in Fayetteville, is like trying to preserve it for the locals and not letting the university like plow down affordable apartment complexes for sorority houses. So it's it's like an ongoing.
My pet theory is that with climate change, NWA is going to explode with climate refugees because it's the most logical place for people from the Gulf Coast to relocate to.
Oh
And
yeah,
Right.
I hadn't even considered that, and you're absolutely correct. That's something that is going to happen.
Well, we already
and
saw that in post Katrina. This whole area got a bunch of the post Katrina refugees. I mean, some of that subsided now, but Taney County had a huge demographic shift in 2005 through 2009 because of people coming up from Louisiana and Mississippi. And like, if you look at the ProPublica, New York Times just put that out, that like 50-year climate outlook thing project like last week or 2 weeks ago. And one of the most, like, basically the furthest south and west, or the furthest southwest rather, durable spot over the next 50 years are the Ozarks. When you go any further south and the temperatures get extreme, you go any further to the southwest, I mean, you're talking about like stepping outside and your brain's literally frying inside of your skull and the river's turning to dust, like, but even through their 2070 predictions, the Ozarks look durable as having remaining more or less 4 seasons. And Bentonville, Rogers, Springdale, Fayetteville, they're already building the infrastructure to expand anyways. And when you tack on all that migration, I mean, Springfield, Missouri, and NWA are both they're gonna blow up. And I think NWA is really focused on growth, and that's part of like the baseline for the theory that it's going to end up to being like the next Chicago or something.
eventually, Portland, Austin.
And you do see like and it is it is like an unfortunate thing is that we do have Walmart money around, so they are able to like, especially like up in Bentonville. So, and I'm sure that y'all know, but for anybody listening, like Northwest Arkansas is just like a collection of a couple of towns straight down the interstate, and at the very top is Bentonville, and then the very southern portion of it is Fayetteville. And so like up towards Bentonville, like you go up there and it's almost like a totally different world sometimes in Fayetteville, because they do just have so much Walmart money like injected into the community, so they're able to like entice people to like, oh, we have like these bougie apartment complexes with like axe throwing bars and like
That's the perfect example though of kind of thing that comes in is the axe throwing bar. I think the most important thing that you can do, Taylor, or anyone can do, is do everything you can to lower the property values in your neighborhood by being as trashy as possible. And
trust me, my neighbors have that covered. They are literal juggalos. They're fantastic.
Yeah.
Whoop whoop.
And they scream at each other on our front porch all day. It's great.
That's my entire
So we lived in Kansas City. Harvey and I moved to Kansas City for a year before I got a job offer to move back down here, and we were so. This was 3 years ago, and good leftists. We were considering like what our impact on moving to a big city would be, and like we were really worried about gentrifying and shit like that. But like the only place we could afford to live was a working class, mostly black neighborhood. Historically working class and well, actually historically probably middle class, but the way things go in that city is, there's no investment in the black side of town at all. So it went from a middle class to largely working class black neighborhood. But then we realized like we're so fucking trashy that there's no way that we're complicit in gentrification. A fucking busted ass swing set in the yard and beat up little plastic tub in the back and all that shit. Fucking kid running around in his underwear. Ozark Mountain of cigarettes on the back porch. And so yeah, we were so once we lived there for like a month, it's like, okay, well, we're definitely not helping anybody's property values here. So and we're definitely not.
When someone tries to bring an axe throwing bar into the neighborhood and they see you, they're going to be like, no, let's go to the power and light district. So I put a picture in the gallery. I don't know if you can see it, but so do you know the Roundtree neighborhood in Springfield?
Yep.
Anyone? Okay. Yeah. Essentially, if Elizabeth Warren had won any district in Springfield, it would be that neighborhood. Like it's all like very nice, well-off liberal kind of people. And there's this one house in that neighborhood, and I see people online who live there post about it all the time. They're just so irate that this house exists. And in the yard, 20 Trump signs. Mounted on the house is a giant Trump pin sign next to a cardboard cutout that is duct taped on to the side of the house of Donald Trump. 2 Trump flags, an American flag, and a piece of wood or cardboard where the person has painted Trump in white paint.
And one Billy Long sign in there. And no parse?
Just one Billy Long sign. I feel so bad for Billy here.
And no parse.
Bad for Mike Parson. He doesn't even get a shout out, man.
Yeah, that's true. I can't see what the yellow thing is. It looks
that's
like
one of those look twice, save a life motorcycle signs, yeah.
Well, I saw somebody on my Twitter feed said that the Harry Potter house in Roundtree has a Trump sign in front of it. They literally built this house as they used the architecture from Harry Potter.
Yeah,
So the only time I've spent in Springfield have been at Josh's bookstore, essentially, and I'm so sorry. A Harry Potter house by itself is hilarious.
I mean, this is like a multi-million-dollar house.
So, like, here in Taney County, like, Trump's going to win Taney County by fucking 75 points or something like that. Like, there may be a few of those.
That's probably low.
Yeah, that's probably, well, I don't know. There's a lot of quiet moderates around here, you know what I mean? But they love their bottom line, so they're probably going to vote for Trump anyways. But the only Biden sign that we have seen in the entire county is done up like one of these insane Trump houses. And it's got like stenciled hand painted signs and shit. And one of them says like Google Project Lincoln. And like, there was like 7 or 8 hand painted signs, but I didn't. The one that caught my mind and I almost ran off the fucking road for was the Google Project Lincoln one. And it's right outside of Forsyth, which is the county seat in an extremely conservative town. And it's right on the highway into town, and it's super bizarre. It's like very jarring to see this fucking place because I've literally not seen another Biden sign anywhere. And honestly, not even that many. There's a couple of Trump houses, but none of them are done up like the real crazy ones that go viral, you know what I mean? They've maybe got like one insane flag, or they've got flags and signs everywhere, but nobody 20 signs deep or whatever. But it was really weird to have this like juxtaposition of like, oh, there's a fucking, I don't know, a Biden hillbilly. I don't know.
I respect the Trump house, because knowing all your neighbors will hate you, like, fuck Trump, but this guy's all right.
Yeah.
I wonder. So like Roundtree is like famous for their Halloween shit, you know, like.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking. They're famous for they go big on Halloween. Everybody in the neighborhood is like bound by their
We always
HOA
commit.
or something.
We commit class warfare by going and getting all the full-size candy bars. So I wonder how that's gonna work on Halloween, because you know they're gonna be handing out fucking candy if they're Trump people. They don't give a shit about coronavirus, so
Right.
they're gonna be out in the front yard handing out Snickers bars or whatever. I wonder how that's gonna go with all their very Warren Democrat neighbors.
I do hope the owners of the Trump house dress up like the people in St. Louis, like pull the guns out. Like, I hope that was their. I hope that's their.
All right, well, let's get into it. We each got a little topic we want to talk about today. Yeah, so Taylor, you want to take it away with your hometown city council?
Yeah, so I want to talk about how the City Council of Alpena, Arkansas, which is best known for either the Red X Dollar Dogs, it has not been Red X in 15 years, or the combination of the Trump Confederate whatever flag you need store with the chainsaw art place next to it, which has at least an 8-foot statue of Sasquatch attached to it.
Are people outside of the Ozarks? Does chainsaw art exist outside of the Ozarks?
You know, I don't think it.
It does specifically in relationship to Bigfoots. In Northern California, in Bigfoot country, up on the Lost Coast, you'll find a chainsaw redwood Bigfoot just about anywhere.
Yeah, I was saying, I had a friend who was in town from New York who I took by through there from Fayetteville, and the fact that chainsaw art existed in itself was hilarious to her. When she saw the Bigfoot, that was the straw that broke the camel's back.
That was over the edge, yeah.
Yeah, you know. Yeah, so I want to talk about how the town that I went to high school in elected a mayor who actually never lived inside the city limits, and they all hated him to the point of they tried to recall him.
Who voted for him?
Well, there are only 300 people who live in Alpena, so you know it didn't take much to win by a landslide. But the mayor's name was Theron McCammond, and I'm going to drop a picture of him into the chat because he looks like a melting ice cream cone. And I mean that with all the love in my heart. And so before he was elected, there was a mayor. Her name was Bobby Bailey. He does, doesn't he?
I would have voted for him.
Yes. There was a mayor named Bobby Bailey. She had been mayor since I was like a baby. I think she had been mayor for like 25 years before, like 2 years ago, when she was unseated by this man who was running on a platform of draining the swamp of Alpena. Now, I have been disconnected a little bit from Alpena Harrison politics, just having moved to Fayetteville and not really caring that much about what's going down in the small town that I went to high school in. And I started seeing like random posts from like aunts and just like older ladies that I had known since I was born about how awful this man was. I was like, man, if these ladies are up in arms, I must hate this man. It all started because he allegedly, he never fessed up to it, removed a memorial tree in the park for a man who was like universally loved. His name was Walt Record. He was a bus driver in Alpena and he did a lot of other things. He was great. They had planted a memorial tree for him after he died in the early 2000s. Farron allegedly, once again, it was definitely him, had the tree and the monument that was next to it removed for whatever reason. And so people were like, this dude sucks anyway. And then small things started happening, such as him spending $30,000 without the city council's approval. He bought a new cop car because Alpena has a police force for 300 people. And people were like, hey man, you can't be doing this. The straw that ultimately led to the recall that would have gone down with Farron McCammon was the fact he called the prosecuting attorney of Arkansas on a city employee who he believed was scamming the city out of money. When it absolutely turns out she was not. She's a great woman. I do know her. But they were like, okay, we are going to recall him. And in a Facebook post that I did see myself, they tried to recall him. And in a post by this lady named Becky, she said, don't forget to go to the axe throw, gun shop, barbecue place to sign the petition to remove the Alpena mayor from office. And that's
And
what
how
I
much
saw.
of this drama went down on Facebook?
Oh, absolutely all of it. I am pulling. So I was just going to tell my story from this purely from the Facebook posts I saw, but I was like, well, we might want to just do some actual. We'll look into some actual news stories that are written on it. So I am pulling from two Arkansas Democrat Gazette stories written by Mr. Bill Bowden, and he did mention that Facebook post in there. And so they went through and were trying to repeal him, and he was like, "No, I'm not going to be, I'm not going to be recalled, whatever." And he said, basically, he was like, "I want you to annex my city from city property or from city limits, and then I'll resign." And they were like, okay. And they looked into it and realized that his city had never been annexed into the city limits, meaning everything that he had done was invalid. He said, I'm not leaving my property inside the city limits so they could tell me what I could and couldn't do, he said.
Farron McCammon is fed up.
My faith, my family, and my financial well-being are more important to me than fighting a corrupt syndication by myself.
So
But
literally
now,
nobody, including himself, knew that he wasn't even in city limits.
exactly. McCammon said from the Arkansas Democrat Gazette, McCammon said he paid $38 in Alpena property taxes in 2018, but he guesses he'll let the city keep that. Well, Merry Christmas, he says.
What? So what did he spend the $30,000 on?
So they had the city council had set out a plan to buy new water meters. And they were going to do $10,000 a year for 3 years. But he just sped that up and spent $30,000 at once on all new water meters. And they were pissed. he decided he was running because he decided that there was nepotism in Alpena politics, because the police chief had been the ex-mayor Bobby Bailey, was her nephew, and her great grandson was on the city council, and he decided he needed to drain the swamp.
It could go bulldozer. You better watch him.
Yeah.
I do love every local level person trying to do Trumpism.
I remember I saw my aunt was like venting on Facebook about this guy, and I called my mom and I was like, "Mom, what is going on in Alpena?" She's like, "Well, now Taylor, some guy is trying to unseat Bobby Bailey, and she's been the mayor for a while, and people just don't like that." And I was like, "Okay." And then I dug deeper, and I saw he's just this total Trump guy, and for his inauguration, they had a city parade where it was just all horses. It's the
Just the one
wildest.
police car driving down the street leading it.
Yes. And if anybody listening to this or y'all are ever driving through Alpena, absolutely go the speed limit. It is an absolute speed trap town. And if you're going anything over the posted 30, you will get pulled over and you will get a ticket. I got a ticket there for going 33 miles per hour one time.
Oh my lord! How does one even go through Alpena without just going to Alpena? Is it on the way to anything? It's between.
Yeah. So if you're coming down 412 from Fayetteville, you have to go through that to get to Harrison.
Okay.
Yeah. So it is an unfortunate. They have not completely bypassed Alpena yet, unfortunately.
For whatever reason, you'd need to be headed to Harrison.
Yeah, which the only reasons to go to Harrison, I think, would be to visit my parents or go to Grand Fortuna, which is a Chinese restaurant in Harrison where you might get hepatitis, but it's delicious food.
I've been to Grand Fortuna, yes. I don't know if it's got anything on the Hong Kong buffet in Branson.
I don't know that anybody has anything on the Hong Kong buffet in Branson.
Are buffets open again?
I don't plan on finding out.
Yeah. While it does seem that I would be the person to know that knowledge, I do not know. I know that the Golden Corral by my house is open, but for takeout only. So I don't know what that entails.
What about the Shoney's in West Memphis?
Man, let me tell you, if there was a Shoney's breakfast buffet open right now, I would know just deep in my soul, and I can tell you that it's not.
So Arkansas still has COVID restrictions in place currently, right? Do y'all have a statewide mask mandate?
I don't believe it's statewide. It's county to county. So where I live in Washington County, we have a mask mandate. Does not mean that people are following it. Basically, you have to wear it in the grocery store. So I live in Fayetteville, live not too far from downtown, Dixon Street, which is our bar entertainment district. Basically every day in our neighborhood Facebook group, there are angry people that just drive down to Dixon and take pictures of all the students that aren't wearing masks, which I agree is absolutely a problem, that they need to be wearing masks and not going out to bars right now. But I'm like, guys, I don't know what being this angry about this is going to solve right now. So it's definitely hit or miss. We're starting to see, I mentioned earlier, I'm a stand-up comedian, and there are some places that are trying to bring comedy back, which is a bad idea. Josh, even after COVID, you shouldn't bring comedy back. Comedians are like cockroaches. We should absolutely be dead, but we refuse to die.
Stand-up's having a rough time in the discourse right now.
Yeah, it's not great. And it the comedy club up here in Lowell is running shows, and there's some smaller bars that are wanting to do shows. I'm personally not doing them because I don't want to kill my mom at Thanksgiving. But it's the mask mandates are very wink, wink, nudge, nudge, do what you want, nobody's enforcing them. There's a smaller town outside of Boone County. I don't know what county it's in though. It's Marshall, Arkansas, kind of by St. Joe in the Buffalo River region.
Yep.
they they posted like back earlier in the pandemic, they were like, yeah, like we are gonna put in a mask mandate, but we're not gonna tell anybody what they need to do. It's all about personal responsibility. If somebody chooses to drive drunk, like they were trying to compare it. They're like, if somebody chooses to drive drunk, that's on them. And I'm like, what?
That's good to know. I can crack one whenever I drive through Newton County or whatever.
Yeah, honestly, yeah. So it's definitely like kind of wild up here because like there definitely are restrictions, but they're not like I personally don't think they're being followed.
Well,
What's it like?
Missouri, we haven't had a statewide restriction since June. I think it was 16th.
Shit.
Nothing. We haven't had a single statewide restriction since June 16th. The only thing is, like, now you can remote a notary, and they changed some of the election requirements a little bit, which also requires a fucking notary. But that's it. That's like the only thing they left. They never put in a mask mandate. And they reopened all non-essential businesses, etc. I mean, and around here, it's the same way here. I mean, none of the towns. I mean, Branson keeps having their city council meetings, and people keep showing up, including one that Harvey's going to tell us about, and talking about, you know, the boxcars coming to take us all the way to the death camps if we start wearing our masks and shit. And,
didn't Yakov Smirnoff show up to one?
Yeah, Yakov Smirnoff, Dr.
yeah.
Yakov Smirnoff showed up once. Yeah. But they compared them. I've seen so many people both down Branson and up in Springfield whenever they have the city council meetings talking about who have compared it to the yellow star. Wearing the mask is like wearing the yellow star. It's like Jesus Christ.
I haven't heard that as much as that it's the mark of the beast.
That one.
Well, yeah.
That
I
one,
mean, well,
that
that
too,
is correct stuff. That's just right.
But somebody pointed out to me on Twitter that, like, whenever these people start talking about that shit, they're not like worried about it themselves. What they're doing is like coding a threat. You know what I mean? Like they're saying that they're getting ready to put people in fucking boxcars and make them wear yellow stars. You know?
Yeah.
Like that. If that's where they're immediately jumping to, that's they've been thinking about it too much. But yeah, the mark of the beast thing, of course, is boy, we love God around here, don't we, folks?
It's kind of like the QAnon obsession with like child sex trafficking and all this. Like these people are too interested in this stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they like thinking about it too much.
Well, that was actually another thing. At one of the Branson meetings, one of the ladies got up and said, like, how are we gonna save a child? How are we gonna know if a child's being trafficked if they're wearing a mask over their face and they can't mouth help to us? And
Yeah,
I
that's
had to point
the
out to one of our
thing.
local
QAnon anti-mask crossover is that we won't be able to tell if a child is being abducted.
I have the
They're
ear
wearing
of
masks.
a couple local journalists, and whenever they cover shit like that, I have to like DM them and be like, "Yo, that's fucking QAnon." Like, that's QAnon. Like every time they just report something that's like, "Wow, look at this wacky shit somebody said," I'm like, "Bro, that's fucking QAnon."
Getting this from somewhere, yeah.
I have seen several people go down like the QAnon rabbit hole, and it's been horrifying to watch it in real time. The other day, a man who has been really into QAnon read the allegory of the cave for the first time, had some real weird hot takes about it on Facebook, and I was like, I wish I was dead.
I don't know. I kind of wish I was on whatever he's on.
Honestly, same.
So speaking of Facebook and the hell world that it is spiraling us into, I think that has a little bit something to do with what you're going to talk about, right, Josh?
Yeah. Let me find my notes. Okay. Yeah. I hate Josh Hawley. That's
The end.
I think I told you this, Josh, but I used to work with his cousin like a long time ago.
Does his cousin is his cousin a man?
Yes, his cousin's a man, and we didn't know they don't. He used to play basketball in Europe.
Oh, no, okay, cool. I was gonna ask if he had the same kind of grimaced smile. I don't know if you've seen it, but Josh Hawley has this weird smile he does where he looks very unhappy to be smiling. I don't know.
Tom Cotton has it too. Listen, man, like Ben Shapiro, Tom Cotton, Josh Hawley, like Scott Pressler, Jacob Wall, all of these people are just rejected clones from the same fucking clone factory. You know what I mean? Like, they all just had one defect
From the
off.
apple-headed factory.
Yeah, fucking apple-headed clone factory.
What's going to be so crazy about 2024 is that whatever happens this election, it's going to be Tom Cotton, Ted Cruz, Josh Hawley, and probably Nikki Haley and a bunch of other weirdos. But those three guys are all like the same guy. They're all just unlikable in the same way. Just a visceral kind of disgust. Like, Ted Cruz is probably the worst of the three as far as just like being off-putting. And Hawley's probably the least bad of the three. But, okay. So I had a hypothesis that I thought that Josh Hawley was born exactly 18 days before me, but it's 1 year and 18 days. But this still works. I decided that God realized he'd made a mistake by creating Josh Hawley, and he sent me here to be his nemesis. So he's like, I made a mistake. I'm going to make another Josh who's going to non-violently destroy Josh Hawley. So that's what I'm
in Minecraft. parody, redacted.
Yeah. By voting him out of office, of course.
Through the power of democracy.
Yeah. Okay, so he's been doing this thing where he's been talking about big tech, right? And how we need to take on Facebook and Google. What did he say the other day? When I saw the words United States versus Google, the first thing I thought was God bless America.
Reading that case this morning, reading the case title, United States versus Google, I mean, it just made me want to say God bless America. That's got to be the most patriotic words that have been written down in a long time, United States versus Google. I hope we'll see United States versus Facebook.
He's such a chode. Like, everything he says is so stupid. But okay, so overall, I actually think what he's doing is smart, because what he's going to do is kind of the same thing Trump's doing by trying to be like a faux populist. And so he's kind of going to try to run in that lane. And he can do this by appealing to two things. So, like, the number one grievance right now with conservatives is not being able to post, right?
Right.
Like, I saw a Trump speech today where he said, "The great Charlie Kirk."
Oh God! Oh, that's the most cursed.
They are
most cursed 4 words I've ever heard.
A watermelon head Charlie Kirk. You have Congress people like coming out like crying about how Charlie Kirk got banned from not banned, just he had his account locked because he was like posting untrue things. So
on
I think
Facebook or
on
Twitter.
Yeah.
On Twitter.
So he can appeal to conservatives with this because their number one issue is posters' rights.
Right.
And because it's for boomers, you know what I mean? Like, they want to be able to say whatever they want and there be no consequences from private companies, which so that's part of what he's doing. Officially, what he wants is to repeal Section 230, which gives immunity to big tech companies from things that are posted on their sites, kind of thing. And so he wants there to be an external audit of algorithms to make sure they're politically neutral. So that's the first.
What does that even mean, Josh?
Now, something about this seems a little fishy to me.
And okay.
Because wasn't there just a report last week about how the Facebook algorithm is intentionally biased towards conservatives?
So that's the next thing I'm going to read. Okay, here are the top 10 shared Facebook stories from 2 days ago. Number 1, Dan Bongino. Number 2, Dan Bongino. Number 3, Fox News. Number 4, Dan Bongino. Number 5, Dan Bongino. Number 6, Dan Bongino. Number 7, Dan Bongino. Number 8, Dan Bongino. Number 9, CNN. And number 10, Dan Bongino. Dan Bongino, if you don't know, he's a former Secret Service agent / 3-time failed Republican congressional candidate turned conservative media grifter.
Yeah, I mean, he was too far right for Fox News. He was on NRA TV when that was still a thing. He was like their stalwart on there. I mean, this guy is like the definition of a meathead. Like, the man is walking around with the rack of ribs from the Flintstones on top of his fucking shoulders.
So yeah, I think part of what he's trying to do is just kind of like work the rest because he wants to bring in Zuckerberg and Dorsey and just so he can put on like a just grandstand for the boomers who want to post. so
well, as we saw in Taylor's Alpena story, there's nothing that boomers love more than Facebook drama.
Right. It's very true.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what Facebook is now, though. Like.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's just all. It's all boom. That's where QAnon is really growing.
Oh God.
Well, they've been largely. They haven't been. I mean, Facebook can't do anything right, but they've purged a bunch of the QAnon shit from there.
Yeah.
And that'll be interesting to see going forward. Is like where that ends up. But that's neither here nor there. But yeah, that is definitely like that is like the primary vector for the last year and a half was Facebook groups and shit like that.
One time, this summer, some girl that I know, who I won't name, she was like posted this huge long thing about how the Save Our Children's hashtag wasn't working, and it was just because she spelled children wrong.
It's so often when you see them complain about something like that, it's just as they are screwing something up.
And when I tell you, it was the best day of my entire life.
So the other thing where I kind of think that since he's obviously going to run for president, is this does have crossover appeal, I think, to some people because big tech companies are evil. You know, like
right.
He's not wrong about this.
Right.
And so when he runs, he can't run on the things he believes, like probably public executions for abortion and all of his other like conservative things. He'll have to focus on this kind of thing, which will appeal to Lynn Greenwald, who loves him.
Yeah, I imagine Greenwald's going to be a Hawley booster. I mean, I think he's also he's Trump, but he's put together. He's a Yaley or whatever, or a Harvard grad, or both maybe. Like, he's going to have liberal appeal. Like that is not to get us off track here, but my biggest fear is like I would almost rather shit like get extremely bad now than in 2024, like through quote unquote all of the legal and legitimate means we just embrace fascism outright. I would almost rather like there be a coup and like the liberals being fired up and there being some sort of like actual unified to some degree resistance than them all like, you know, they won't turn the same way on somebody polished like fucking like Hawley like they will on the crass Trump. You know what I mean?
I much prefer Trump to Hawley. Hawley's much scarier for that exact reason because all the Lincoln Project people will love him because he's not going to fling shit around, and that's much scarier.
Because that's what it boils down to is that liberals just don't like the way Trump looks and acts.
All aesthetics, yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Google. I looked up what all of the Democrats said about big tech and what should be done, and it was all very on brand for each one. So Warren and Bernie said break them up, right? Andrew Yang said he wants to make data part of property rights and create a Department of Attention Economy. Okay. So Andrew Yang. But my favorite one was Pete Buttigieg.
Hashtag math.
Well, high hopes.
Pete Buttigieg said he declined to call out specific companies, although he said concentration of power, quote, set off alarms. So nothing. Nothing from Pete. So yeah, I do think that Hawley can find some kind of crossover appeal, because, I mean, Joe Biden's not going to do anything about big tech, I also saw a video where, this is the other thing that Hawley wants to do. He wants to let you sue big tech companies for, quote, censoring you. And so I watched an interview with this guy named Sean Fook or something like that. I don't know. He's a praise and worship leader. And
is he that long-haired dude who's been holding the big like 10,000 person?
Yes, he's got kind of like long surfer-looking hair.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
He sits at the first. He calls him Josh Hawley.
Sounds like a spooky name.
This is
That's his October Twitter name.
I would respect it more if he changed it. It was the lowest rent interview I've seen, though. Like, the camera shakes a few times, red, white, and blue shutter shades, and he says, we're going to talk about spicy topics. And he was very upset because he got censored. I don't know exactly what was in the video, but him and his, like, praise and worship band went to the George Floyd Memorial, and I just assumed it annoyed people. But yeah, Josh Hawley said you should be able to sue big tech.
I mean, in some respects, I absolutely agree with him. I just know that it ain't gonna play out in anybody who I care about's favor. You know what I mean? Like, these people have told us who they are over and over and over again. Like, this is a one-way street. Like,
how untenable is it, though, to have everyone who gets suspended suing Twitter?
Well, fortunately, there's a judiciary that is just packed full of judges right now. So,
I mean, I guess we could use this just to tie up the courts so they can't.
Yeah.
Well, this is how I'm gonna make my $1 million is suing Facebook for not letting me post my nipples.
And I think if Section 230 is revoked, then like there are criminal implications too. So it might actually tie up the criminal courts and may have a net positive. I mean, fuck, if Facebook got shut down, that is a net positive for this whole world. You know what I mean?
Harm reduction.
Like almost 2 billion users.
Like, it does not help them to shut down Facebook.
Right, I don't think they want to shut it down. They just want to have editorial privileges.
They want the top 10 to all be Bongino. They don't want that one CNN in there.
Exactly, and it's the same shit as like Tom Cotton's obsession with 1619 Project and everything. You know what I mean? Like, it's not really about you having access to that information. It's about the opportunity that it provides for them to push their reaction to it. I mean, like, we're hearing about PragerU being in high school classrooms and college classrooms and shit like that. And PragerU is like actively targeting being played in high schools. I mean, that's just the point, is like they latch onto these things just so that they have a cultural foothold in order to push off of in the opposite direction. You know, they need something to react against in order to be a reactionary. Sometimes they're just flailing out there trying to react against something that isn't there, so they have to make it up.
My last thing is I'm working on a Posters Bill of Rights for Josh Hawley to sponsor. I've only got 3 at this point.
Well, shit. Well, Hawley's gonna have a Posters 10 Commandments, so we also better have a Posters.
Okay, so we have the right to use slurs, obviously.
That's number 1. That's the whole project, right?
The right to target, harass any woman who has the audacity to share an opinion, or to turn down your advances, or to reply, "Lol, is that it?" when you send her a dick pic. And the right to share unverified gateway pundit stories that claim that China has a video of Hunter Biden tying orphans to a train track.
I mean, that's really all you need, I think, you know?
Yeah, that covers it, I think. And we need Carpe Donked him to get his account back. I don't know if anyone remembers that guy because once some of these, it's kind of like Milo. Once you get kicked off Twitter, they just disappear from the world.
Right. Well,
What
unless
is
you're
he,
Yep.
what is
unless you
he
have
even
some
up to these days?
Milo.
Yeah, does anybody know?
I don't know. I mean, he was successfully
I haven't heard
deplatformed.
from him.
I mean,
Once you say it's okay to fuck 15-year-old kids, it's over for you.
Not according
let's
to
not say his
QAnon.
name 3 times in a row, though. He might show back up. But I mean, those people are with the cachet to stick around, like Jones. I mean, like Alex Jones is still around despite being kicked off of every possible platform.
Yeah. See, he was smart enough to make his media company before, you know what I mean? Like Milo never really did anything other than post. I don't know. You have to create. Milo's book did get purchased by the downtown library. It was always sitting on the shelf when I went in there.
Well, that's the marketplace of ideas, Joshua. Well, we got anything else on Josh Hawley? Oh.
Not for now, but I will in the future.
Yeah. I imagine this is going to be a recurring thing as he is our future Lord Commander. But,
right. That's the thing. Like our senator and Taylor's senator are going to be huge deals because.
And I mean, here we've gone almost basically an hour, and we've not mentioned Roy Blunt's name, who is our other senator, and who always gets the benefit of anonymity, despite being a long entrenched member of the D.C. Republican political class.
Yeah,
And
he's
the
been in
House
there my
Majority
whole life,
Whip.
I swear.
That motherfucker has done more damage to this country than just about anybody, and nobody ever says his name. So I think in a future episode, I'm going to be tearing the fuck into Roy Blunt and that whole deal because
his son is
completely
already come
unsettling
and gone.
face.
Yeah, his son is a has-been, and yet Roy Blunt perseveres. And he's one of the few people who, I mean, he didn't go through the governor's house. His son did, but he didn't go through the governor's house. Usually, like, big-time Missouri folks are either AG or they're governors, but, like, Hawley was AG, and former Governor Nixon was AG before he became governor, but that's not the route he took. Ashcroft, too, was AG before he did not become senator, but was also governor at some point, and then became our national AG. And he's another piece of shit we should talk about sometime because he's on the board of what is now Academy and formerly Blackwater.
He went to my college.
Yeah, he was. His dad was the director of CBC. Was it CBC or Baptist Bible College?
Evangel. Wait.
He was both. He was like co-director of both.
My dad was the president of CBC when it closed.
Another august American institution gone with time. So I've got kind of what is almost certainly going to be a recurring segment here because it's something that's been fucking with me forever. I want to talk about. This has been bothering me for years. This is like I don't know. It's at this point a 15-year obsession, but really has kicked up in the last like 5 years. And like I said, we're gonna come back to this because there's no way that we're gonna come to a satisfactory conclusion of this in a 12-minute segment or whatever. Whenever I've been thinking about it for 5 years, so I would love some input on this. But the question is, what the fuck is going on in Branson, Missouri? So was that
methamphetamine?
Well, not even so much anymore. Let's get into it. So yeah. I bounced around a bit as a kid through preteen and teenage years, but through my preteen and teenage years, I lived in rural Taney County. I don't really have a hometown per se because I lived in the middle of nowhere. But Branson is where I held my first couple of jobs, where I went to high school, and along with the fact that it's where we went to town, quote unquote, it's always sort of filled the hometown role in a de facto sense for me. That said, it was like alien to me as a child when I came to visit my grandparents, and it was inscrutable to me as a teenager interacting with it on a daily basis, and it is in many respects just completely unrecognizable to me now as an adult. Maybe listeners and y'all, I'm sure, are familiar with the place. It's a major tourist destination, especially since the 90s when 60 Minutes featured it in a segment that kind of blew the spot up. And it's been featured in various popular media like King of the Hill and The Simpsons. which once quipped, "It's like Las Vegas if it were run by Ned Flanders." Yeah, classic Simpsons joke.
What is this place? Branson, Missouri. My dad says it's like Vegas if it were run by Ned Flanders.
It's been dubbed the live country music capital of the world. Take that shit, Nashville. And sees about 7 million tourists in the non-pandemic year. I haven't seen the numbers for this year yet, but it did not seem to slow people down much. Something's really changed since I was younger, because like a lot of the shows have closed and they've been replaced by retail and experiential-oriented tourism. You know, a lot of quote-unquote eco-tourism, where they come in and carve out the side of a mountain to build zip lines or roller coasters and shit, and call it a eco-tourist experience. Andy Williams is dead. Boxcar Willie's dead. So is Mel Tillis, who really discovered the place for aging country musicians in 1990. He was the first. Like Willie Nelson came in the 70s after his son committed suicide, and Willie was suicidal himself after that incident, and so his agent was like,
"Hey, I didn't know that."
Yeah, and so his agent booked him a 6 months in Branson. He did nightly shows in Branson, and Willie said it saved his life. But Mel Tillis is really the guy who moved here and made it the place where country musician careers went to die. But around the same time of this shift in offerings in the early aughts, a large outdoor mall on the shores of Lake Taneycomo called The Landing was built.
They got a Hot Topic.
They got a Hot Topic, or they did. I think it's still open. Last time I was down there, it's still open.
Hot Topic is
Disgraced
still open.
televangelist
Don't ask me how
grifter
I know
Jim
that.
Baker. What's that?
I said the Hot Topic is still open, but don't ask me how I know that.
I think went in there last winter.
You gotta get your Funko Pops.
Yeah, and your Slipknot t-shirts and.
It's all about the music. There's no judgment here.
Disgraced televangelist grifter Jim Baker moved his studio to town in about 2003. A Confederate memorabilia store operated by the son and daughter of someone that I'm sure Taylor is familiar with. The Knights Ku Klux Klan director Thomas Robb. Knights of the Ku Klux Klan, of course, is the respectable racist arm of the Klan that David Duke founded in the 60s, and Thomas Robb took over in the 80s or so. He also runs a Aryan identitarian church down there in Zinc outside of Harrison. A natural history museum devoted to creationism was set up. And
has anyone been there? Have you ever been there for any reason?
Yeah, we've been thinking about dressing up like Calvinists and going in there, like Anabaptists and going in there.
It's really small.
My parents unironically have been there.
And I'm jealous. I you know what? That maybe we'll record a special episode where we just go and wear a wire or something. It'd be very interesting. But so now just outside, right down the highway from that Creationist Museum, is the North America's tallest freestanding cross, which went up about 2 years ago. It was built right alongside the highway on top of a hill. It's a giant white monstrosity scarring the landscape, and it's adorned with 12 cum emojis, which I assume are related to the apostles. I don't know. Y'all are the religious ones. I grew up we're less secular, so. But
have you
seen
it, Josh and Taylor? Have you seen the cross?
I've only seen pictures of it. I've seen pictures, but I haven't seen it in person.
Yeah,
let me drop a picture in the chat here. But so this place,
emojis are really what take it over the edge.
Yeah, it's not. I don't think I have one with the emojis on it, but I got a really wild picture of it Monday morning or so. It's foggy, but this place has just become like a reactionary museum of artifacts from the culture wars. Like, we have now regular prayer walks and pro-Confederate cruises down the strip and impromptu unsanctioned Trump rallies and flag-waving events. And I would argue that if Bart Simpson joke were to be made again today, that he should say instead that my dad says it's like Las Vegas if the John Birch Society ran it rather than Ned Flanders. So I ask you, comrades and listeners, what the fuck is going on in Branson, Missouri? I don't know how much time y'all have spent there. I mean, I imagine, Taylor, you probably came up for weekends or something in your youth, living close, going to Silver Dollar City and shit like that?
Yeah, and it's funny. I actually spent a week or a weekend up in Branson this summer. We got a cabin up there, and all people in our bubble. It was very safe. We didn't leave there. But yeah, I mean, we grew up going to Silver City and Whitewater. And it's funny to me because I was actually talking about Branson yesterday with somebody who lives in Las Vegas, and I've never known of like a local culture that lives there because in Fayetteville there's very much like the U of A culture, like university Razorbacks, whatever. But there's also like the locals that live here and like what we deem important. And I've never seen that in Branson. And as growing up, we used to go to Branson probably 2 or 3 times a month because it was 30 minutes away, and
Right.
that's like where you went to buy the nice clothes, where you went school clothes shopping.
Right.
So I definitely agree in that I've seen like Branson in decline from the time I was a kid to now. Um, I don't really necessarily know exactly what it is, but I think it's a lot of like what we're seeing in a lot of other communities of just like people that are just like we felt this way our whole life, but now we feel comfortable doing it, and so they're like, let's bust
Leaning
out the
into it.
yeah, exactly. Like, people are just like, yeah, we feel comfortable leaning into it, and we're gonna go to the Confederate flag shop down from the Dixie Stampede and the Applebee's on the Strip in Branson, and we're just
Right.
gonna fucking let it be known.
Get your
And
picture taken with the General Lee.
there was a huge, I think, wasn't, and I could be wrong about this, but there was like a protest
There were
this summer.
3 of them.
Yeah.
We went
Yeah.
to one, and I drove past another. There was a big one that went viral because some dipshit ass. I think she was from like Kimberling City or something. She's, well, and that's the thing is like you said, there's not talking
KKK
about
Kathy, right?
yeah,
KKK.
KKK Kathy. She got up and said KKK beliefs. She was gonna teach her grandchildren to hate and all this shit. But back to your point about like about not like a local culture or whatever, and that's what's really weird is like Taney County is in many respects like a cultural heart of the Ozarks. Like Forsyth was the county seat was at one point they thought going to be bigger than St. Louis because it was the furthest uh, up the White River from the furthest you could get a steamboat from Fort Smith in Memphis. We're the home of the Bald Knobbers in the 1880s. We're the home of the Bastard Outlaw Men in the 1860s. We're one of the birthplaces of country music, like in a real sense, not in the country music stars going to die sense. Like this is, Taney County has produced so many, the old timey, proto country guys. This is, Shepherd of the Hills is based here. Where the Red Fern Grows, I think, is actually based in maybe in Arkansas. But this is like Harrison, Boone County, and Taney County are kind of like the heart of the Ozarks in a lot of respects, and what people know about the Ozarks. But Branson has the same thing going on that any tourist town does, like Telluride and all that shit. Is that the people who work in Branson can't afford to fucking live in Branson, And that was like back when they were holding the city council stuff, the city council meetings for the mask mandate. The second one, the first one, they just let anybody get up there and talk for as long as they wanted, and it ended up lasting 9.5 hours, shit like that. And they learned their lesson. But so the second one, only if you owned a business or lived within city limits could you talk at that one. And it's like, man, that means that almost nobody who like works in a public facing fucking job in that town gets a say as to whether or not the customers coming into their fucking business have to wear a mask. You're asking the business owners and the people who can afford to live in the bigger houses in Branson North and shit what they think. But you're not gonna ask the people who live in fucking a trailer in Merriam Woods and work at McDonald's and Walmart whether or not the people that come in there should have to wear a mask. So I don't know. it's truly baffling to me. I'm gonna keep coming back to it, but I'm gonna leave it.
Well, the thing about Branson is, growing up there, you can never really explain how weird Branson is unless someone has been there to see it themselves.
And even then, they've only been there for a week at the most, and that's just really, that doesn't begin to describe what it's like to fucking live there. You know,
It really has to be
has,
seen to be believed.
Harvey has a leg up on here on this for me because she actually lived in Branson.
Yeah, that's where I graduated from high school, and I didn't realize until after I graduated from high school that not everybody had go-karts and an amusement park and a water park just in their town. 18 mini golf places.
It's funny because when I first moved up here to Northwest Arkansas, people were like, "Man, we're going to Branson for the weekend. We're so excited." And I was like, "What? Why are you excited to go to Branson?" Because I grew up just like I said, it was just like a hop, jump, and skip away, and I didn't realize the cultural phenomenon essentially that was Branson. So I definitely get that. It's hard to explain to people who didn't either grow up in there or around it, what it truly is.
Well, here's a fun story. The reason that my family moved from, or one of the reasons that my family moved from Louisiana to Branson is that my parents were, they wanted to make me a child star, so they moved up here so they could put me in the Branson shows, because they said that otherwise my fate would be stripping on Bourbon Street in New Orleans.
What?
I'm not quite sure why. I've never been entirely sure why that would have been my only choice in life, but you know what? They were right.
I've always said better a stripper on Bourbon Street than a chorus dancer in Branson. That's my personal opinion.
Does Branson have? I'm guessing they don't have any strip clubs or anything. Do they have? Is it against the?
No.
Do they have an
ordinance
where they say no, it's not allowed?
Yeah, I don't even think you can't do soft burlesque in Branson.
There was a big shit fight back in 2005, almost 2004. I think it ended up being a statewide ballot measure about casinos in the state.
That's right. I remember that.
And they blocked the expansion because what they wanted to do was put a riverboat down in Rockaway Beach, which used to be, before Branson was even a hot spot. Rockaway Beach back in the 30s, the 20s and the 30s, was a huge tourist destination. I mean, it was it had a boardwalk. I mean, it was hot shit pre-Depression, and even into the Depression. But so even by the time everybody I'd call an old timer was a kid, more or less, that place had already declined. But they were trying to bring jobs and economic development back to Rockaway Beach by putting in a riverboat casino. And a few of the guys, including Brett Favre's brother, was a big backer of it. And, that was weird because, but it is very much there's still the moral standards of the Ned Flanders thing, but it's the reactionary culture has shifted from quiet sweater wearing conservative to fucking drooling QAnon shit, you know.
And I've talked about this. They still claim that they're the silent majority, and
even though they won't shut the fuck up.
That's the thing, is you're not anymore. Maybe you were at one point, but every evangelical Christian that I knew that used to be kind of silently votes for Bush or whatever, or likes decency and honor. Now they're just they're this Trump house guy. They won't stop yelling about how Joe Biden is going to feed children to whatever. I don't know.
They're both a political minority and won't shut the fuck up. And yet you still hear the silent. In 2020, still hearing the fucking silent majority shit like it's 1972 or whatever.
Right. They truly believe that though, and the whole thing about people are afraid to tell pollsters they want to vote for Trump. I don't believe that. I think they are very excited to tell the liberal pollster that that voting for Trump.
And maybe it's the fact that I live in, everyone wants to make NWA out to be like this liberal bastion, but it's not. It's conservative. There's a lot of rich, Walmart and other executives up here. It's very conservative.
Well, it's all relative, though, right? Like, I mean, compared to y'all got an art museum. I mean, compared
But I have never met anybody in my whole life that has voted for Trump that has not been incredibly proud of it and wanted to tell me about it in detail when I did not ask. So, silent majority is like, come on, guys, let's get it together. You're not a silent majority.
They're not even the majority. That's the other thing.
Yeah, that too.
Well, we're running, time's running pretty late here, so let me get to my thing real quick. I just wanted to draw attention to the person running for state rep in the 156th district, which happens to be Branson's district, but Taney County is divided up, eastern and western, so unfortunately we can't vote against this man. But Brian Sipe, the Superman cosplayer, pastor, veteran, and car wash manager, running for state rep. And I found out about this guy running because I happened to be in drama club with his son when I was in high school in Branson. And his son was a proto-internet troll. He was just widely hated by everyone because he would just, say whatever shit he could to get a rise out of people. But so Brian is running on a strict, staunch, conservative Christian platform, and that seems to be his only platform, is that he's a Christian. That's it. That's why you should vote for him, because he's a Christian. Most unlikely Superman cosplayer of all time. He's about 5 feet tall over here.
Is he elected now, or is he just running?
He is running, but I am sure he is going to win.
Right,
he's a Republican.
Right. Yeah, in Taney County, the Republican primary is the general.
Okay.
The current Congress or rep is term limited.
And he speaks at all of the mask mandates meetings at the city council, and he's strictly an anti-mask guy.
Oh no!
And yet somehow has the endorsement of the Missouri Nurses Association PAC. So that's pretty interesting. But one thing that's interesting about him is that he is the pastor of the Sovereign Grace Baptist Church, which was founded at the Heritage Cafeteria.
R.I.P.
But Brian got some prominence because of some old Facebook, here back onto the Facebook, but because of some old Facebook posts that got dug up. And let me read a few of them here for you. I have them pulled up. All right, here we go. As I am in a mood, obviously my feminine side, let me state this. Yoga is the gateway to Hinduism. Stretch, flex, breathe, and calm down, but Christian women have no place in Hinduism. Thus, he rant.
No.
And here's another one.
The yoga thing isn't even that obscure of a take in evangelical circles anymore. The James River Assembly.
This one is older. He was earlier than Chuck Liddell.
Yeah, this was 2012. This was in 2012.
So
James River came out with that this year or last year.
Yeah, that was last year. Chuck Liddell, I think that's his name, right?
John Liddell.
John Liddell, yeah.
I went there as a kid.
The one of the second largest AG church in the country, and like the second largest Assemblies of God church in the country, or in the world, and like one of the top 25 churches in the country. And yeah, he was up there ranting about the same shit, but I got to give Brian credit. He beat him to it.
another one of his posts. This one's from 2018. All the complaints on sexual harassment, degradation of women, etc. Top box office for women. New 50 Shades of Grey. Hypocritical.
I will say my favorite, one of my favorite categories of online content is just men who obviously don't understand consent, and it's so funny to watch them walk themselves to these conclusions and completely miss the point.
You're a woman who's had sex before, but you won't have
What?
sex with me?
You won't suck
This makes
me
no
off?
sense.
What?
I'm looking at the picture of Brian, and I understand why somebody would not want to engage in any kind of relations with him. I get it.
But do you not see that early Action Comics he has? Come on.
Yeah.
I couldn't find a picture of him in the actual cosplay suit, but he does, at all of his rallies, he asks everyone to wear the Superman t-shirt.
No. Oh my God.
So he leans hard into the Superman identity.
Does he visit kids in the hospital as Superman?
Yeah, I think
because that might be how he got the nurses.
The last post I saw from him was him going to a senior citizens home and in the full Superman regalia and entertaining the senior citizens.
Can you imagine expecting being excited for Superman to show up and this man walks in the door?
I think he actually wore a mask on that one because he's visiting the seniors at the home, and that definitely would do him wonders on the Clark Kent front. For sure.
Why is anybody willingly?
He's gonna be Superman.
Why would anybody willingly go into a retirement home right now? That's like asking to kill 18 people.
Who knows, man?
He's got to show off his freedoms.
I'm gonna show off my freedoms and kill some memas. What the fuck?
Okay, here's another post from him. This one's from 2017. As far as I'm concerned, we can deport these witches too, or send them to the Middle East where they don't abide such things. And then there's a Bible verse.
Does he mean literal witches?
There's several Bible verses after that about why witches are bad, and this is in response to a Breitbart article about the witches who ex Donald Trump.
There again is that thing where they're telling you exactly what they do. Like he's going to send you to the Middle East where they don't abide such things, which means that he doesn't abide such things, and were he to have the political power to do so, he would be the one executing witches in the street.
The thing. This man is terrifying. I am terrified of this man who is about to come into, some amount of power in our state. Good Lord. Okay.
He's agreeing with ISIS to own the libs. Like, what the fuck?
They do that all the time with gay rights. They'll be like, if you lived in Saudi Arabia, they would chop your head off. Yeah, well, guess what? You also want to chop my head off. You just don't have the cultural power to do it.
Right. They're saying you're lucky. You're lucky that we have the laws here that don't let me do it. Right. Like.
For now.
Like and also, pussy cut off my head.
I'm 90% sure. I'm going to say 90% sure because I have a feeling that the sites are litigious, but I'm 90% sure that Star of David mask is the Star of David shit that I was talking about earlier at the Branson City Council meeting. I'm 90% sure that was Brian Seitz who said that shit.
Listen, I have been on Brian Seitz's Facebook page for 3.5 minutes at this point. And I can tell you that was absolutely him.
I heard Chris Lebeck speaking. He spoke of forced vaccinations. He spoke of a police state. He spoke of people showing their papers and putting up signage. Are we going to have to wear a yellow star? I mean, this is America. It's absolutely ridiculous.
I have no question in my mind.
I'll just read this last post. This is from today. This is from earlier today. And I laughed for a good 5 minutes about this one. Okay. Imagine, if you will, a world where the name COVID was replaced by the name Jesus. And in parentheses, said in a positive way. So there's just a little taste of what we have to look forward to in the coming year.
This comes back to Taylor's story, to what Josh was talking about. Like Trumpism isn't going away with Trump. Like if we somehow get through to January 20th without mass violence and a coup and shit, like I have this, so many liberals seem to think that like November 4th, the long national nightmare is over, and I don't know what leads them to believe this shit because, it's a movement. It's a top down, bottom up movement, and it's not going away. It's just going to get more fucking insane, and more committed ideologues instead of just like mobbed up grifters are going to be the ones who are the ones who are running it,
And Trump will be there egging them on. He is not going away. He's not logging off the second he loses.
It's gonna dovetail perfectly. Limbaugh's gonna fucking die, and he's got this huge. Rush Limbaugh's built this huge media empire over the last 3 decades, I guess, and he's gonna die right around the time that Trump's looking for a new fucking job and looking for a way to pay bills. And he's going to just like walk right in there, and he's going to be the new Rush Limbaugh. You know what I mean? He's just going to take that infrastructure. I would be very surprised. I mean, that is like honestly a best case scenario for the next few months. But like, assuming that this doesn't end in tribunals, that he's going to be the fucking next Rush Limbaugh. He's going to walk right into that infrastructure that's just set up for him.
Well, because wasn't it like after the 2016 election, or before, excuse me, Trump like was assuming he was going to lose, and he was like working towards like copywriting or founding like a media company, and then he won, and he was like, "Oh shit!" And so it's all there. Like we know what's going to happen. Like trust me, I have had more than one mental breakdown online, and you don't just log off.
Right.
I keep posting. Yeah, you just keep posting.
So in 2016, when he thought he was going to lose, Roger Ailes had just been fired from Fox News for sexually harassing every woman that he saw, and he and Trump were planning on launching something. I just watched that miniseries with Russell Crowe about Ailes, and they were going to launch a media empire when he thought he was going to lose, and he is going. Well, I think he's going to lose next week or in 2 weeks, and and he'll do something stupid, like.
Yeah,
although
typically in that big of a lost your job, lost all your confidence, he would start going to open mics. But the pandemic,
he's got the job.
He is. Yeah, he's going to open mics every night. He's holding 10,000 person super spreader events. Working on his tight 90 or whatever.
He's gonna copyright the Trump dance.
Well, you got anything else for us about Brian Seitz, Harv?
No, that's it. We're running at almost 2 hours here, so
yeah,
I can't thank you.
Yes, I was gonna say I'm so happy to know about this guy.
Yeah, me too.
Enjoy.
So we're at about 90 minutes. I think in the future we'll probably shoot for 60 or 70, but this is Ep 1. And I had a great time.
I don't know how good we made the Ozark sound.
How good are
they? Well, yeah, that's the idea, is just to be real about it, man. Yeah, there's plenty of both mythologizing and just like fucking cartoonizing. Let's just be real about it, and that's what we're doing. So
mythologizing and apologizing. That should be the name of the podcast.
Mythologia, apologia, yeah. All right. Well, I enjoyed this. I would absolutely be into doing this if y'all are.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too. I love it.
Now, whether anybody wants to fucking listen to us, but also, like I was talking to Joshua, went and chewed his ear off at the shop last week, and it's like, man, I just need a place to fucking scream into the void about this shit that's not Twitter, you know? Like, I need a place to like work some of these ideas out and have some people to talk about it. That
no, I think we all have
canceled, because let's be honest, that's what we're all really looking for, is just to be canceled.
Just
so that we have
Please,
to log
God,
off.
somebody cancel me.
Please, that's all I'm looking for.
All right, well, let's call it. Yeah.
I was born in the mountain country one stormy winter night, in a little mountain cabin near a river called White. Down along in the follow mountains everywhere I go, and I'm home there in the Ozarks where the old White River flows. I can hear the pine trees sighing, see the oaks nodding in the breeze. I can hear the birds singing, hear the humming of the bees. I can see those rolling mountains and the memory fonder grows of home there in the Ozarks where the old White River flows. So men follow the mountains back to their rocks and rills, for there seems to be a yearning for those White River hills. When they get back to those mountains,